my mission for Obsessed Garage is to give me the ability or a platform to share some of the trial and error that I've gone through over the years. And I was fortunate to host a few of the members of the local Corvette club and sort of share some of the things I've learned about washing your car without scratching it. And the funny thing is, when everybody was pulling up, they didn't really know what this was all about. And so I thought it smart to maybe share a little bit of my story with them in order to hopefully disarm them in that, I'm not selling anything. I'm just sort of here sharing knowledge, making relationships, and hoping to contribute. It wasn't an option for us because Villanova's like $30-something thousand a year, and I was taking out student loans to pay for it. So it wasn't an option to take another year for me. So when I flunked the course, it was a wake-up call that, hey, you've got to get a job, I got to take a summer class, I got to stay on track. And so I went out and I got a job selling TVs, selling home theater, selling car stereo. And now, keep in mind, I'm your typical engineer. I don't stand in front of people and talk, at least I didn't. I would stare at the ground and pace. And now I'm going to be selling. So they gave me this job and said, all right, you go out and you sell stereos. But I was going to be part-time stock guy and part-time car stereo sales. And my first day, I walk in and they're like, all right, there's nothing to do in the stock room. The truck doesn't come until tomorrow. And I walk out onto the floor and I'm just sort of standing in the higher end room. And I already knew everything there was to know because I wanted to buy it all. So I knew all the specs. I knew the slew rates of the amplifiers. I knew what everything cost. I knew what wiring harness you need with a C5 Corvette. I knew all that stuff because I can't remember anyone's name, but I can remember the VIN number on your car. And so I already knew all this stuff before I even started, but I didn't know what selling it meant. And so a guy walks in and he's like, look, I just got this Jeep Grand Cherokee. And I want to do a better sound system. It sounds terrible. And so all I did was just sort of, I probably didn't even look at them. I probably just went and looked at all the products and I said, well, here's what I would do. I do this, 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 and this, and here's why. And he bought it. It was like $5,000. It was like a ridiculous sale for a car stereo. And he's like, all right, that sounds good, I'll take it. And so I walk out of the room. Now remember, I was supposed to be a stock guy and just kind of help out on the floor. And this is literally, I'm not making this up, this was my first day. And I walk out, I don't even know how to punch it into the system. So the car stereo manager, and we were on commission, so he was all hacked off, right? Because here's this idiot, kid, he's doing this for a living, and I'm coming in, and I just sort of sold the system, and he's having to type it in. And so my manager comes up to me and he's like, what the heck are you doing? I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? I was like, I just told the guy what I would buy, and he bought it. And so from there, I became the #1 car stereo salesman. I only worked about 15 hours a week because I was going to Villanova getting an engineering degree. And so I went from the trailer park to now making all this money because it was commission based. So you write your own ticket. I didn't get a salary. I didn't get a paycheck unless I sold something. And so it was like this awakening of, oh my gosh, I can play with the coolest stuff in the world, to me, to a 19-year-old kid, and I get to get paid for this? This is crazy. And so when I graduated from Villanova, all my buddies were going to work for Lockheed Martin and Unisys and all these engineering companies, and I was like, well, let me just see where this takes me. Now, bear in mind, I'm doing sort of retail sales, and I have this fancy, really expensive diploma on my wall. But I was having a blast because I was a really, really big fish in a really small pond. And so I'm selling car stereos, and I worked my way up to home theater, and I started designing, $100,000 systems. And when I graduated, I moved to Florida. I wanted to move to San Diego, but that was a bit of a stretch because from Pennsylvania to San Diego is a big trip. I'm glad I didn't because I probably would have bought a house and had it foreclosed, because the real estate market went crazy in California. But so I moved to Orlando. I was doing the same thing, and sort of worked my way up to be one of the top salesmen in Orlando. And so I'm 22 years old, making this great living, selling the coolest stuff in the world. But something just didn't feel quite right. It was like too easy. It was like I didn't have to work at it because I loved the stuff so much that it was like it just sort of came naturally. And so after about a year and a half, maybe a little less than a year,
this guy walks in my store, and I told, you know, so he's looking at the TV, and I walked up to him, and what most guys would do is they could say, you know, how can I help you? Well, I don't know how to help you. I just would walk up and start talking to him about the TV. That's just what I would do. And he was so impressed that I didn't ask him, how can I help you? He was like, man, usually when I walk into a store, I know more than the guy that's selling me the TV. I mean, have you ever done that with a car? You go into the dealership, they just don't know. And so I was telling my passion for this stuff, and the, you know, building and designing the proper home theater. And so at the end of this sort of conversation, he said, look, I'd really like you to come work with me. And I was like, yeah, I'm not really interested. I really like doing this. This is great. I mean, I'm continuing to grow. And he said, no, hear me out. I'd really like you to come work with me. And I sort of blew him off, took his business card. And so he came back and bought all the stuff that I told him to buy. And at the end, we had a sort of this card, or this thing that you could fill out if you wanted to do. You know, sometimes they have that 24 months interest-free financing. And so he filled it out.
This was the first time I hosted a group of people over, or a captive audience, to talk them through how I wash a car. This event, or this little sort of seminar I put on, was designed for me to talk about how to wash cars. And then if they ever wanted to come back, we could talk more specifically about polishing or maybe some more advanced stuff. So today we focused on washing wheels and tires, you know, rinsing, foaming, and washing the car properly. And then spent a lot of time talking about drying and sort of techniques on how to make sure you don't scratch the paint. This white C5 Corvette was she was the first one here, so I pulled her car in first. The car was already pretty clean, but it was a good sort of canvas or good example to show the guys how I, you know, use different products, what those different products cost, and then giving them some options on things they could do. I also spent some time talking about, you know, washing with a pressure washer, and sort of the differences between the really expensive, really high-end one that I have on the wall, the Kranzel 165 STS, versus the still very expensive but very high-quality Kranzel 1122 TST, which is the one I'm showing them here. And then talking more about just washing with a pressure washer in general, and showing them the ability to be able to sort of foam a car and get the car relatively clean before we even touch the paint, before we even get the wash mitt out. So this was, again, a super fun event for me to share some of the stuff that I've learned, some of the mistakes I've made over the years, you know, with a group of like-minded people who really want to improve how they wash their car and take care of it. You know, most of these vets are garage queens, and they want to take as good of care of them as possible. And so me being able to, being able to maybe improve a little bit, or at least sort of turn them on to a product, rather than talking about the perfect way to wash a car. If they can take a few notes and a few ideas from this event, that was my hope, and I think I accomplished that. I'm going to hopefully do more of this stuff with people all over the world, and maybe even do it some online. But this was super fun, and a good trial run at my first experience of ever doing something like this.
So we're cheating a little bit here because this is white, and white is easy. Black is hard. Red is harder. You know, the darker the color, the better the chance you have to mess it up, so the more care you need to take.
Black cars have two states, beautiful and dirty.
Yeah, and scratched.
And there's nothing in between.
And the great part about Corvettes is they're painted really, really hard. The bad part about it is it's really hard to fix. Now, love bugs, you know, they're coming right there here now.
Do not, please, for the love of my sanity, do not use dryer sheets. Do not use, I've had people use magic erasers. Remember, that's bleach. That'll take your clear coat right off.
Yes.
You just want to use the same procedure you use with anything else, and you want to try to avoid doing it on a dry car. You either need to soak it down with some waterless wash or detail spray, or you need to wash it. And if you have good quality wax or something on here, there's nothing else you need. You don't need any other specific stuff. They'll come right off. You just can't leave them on there for 3 weeks. If you do, it's too late.
Yeah.
You guys know that. You can see the advantage of having your buckets connected. I just take them around with me. Now this is where you want to take more care down here. So I'm going to start at the top, go down to the bottom, and I don't want to come back up with that part of the pad. So I'm going to flip it over, about the mirrors here. And so now where I did pretty much the whole side of the roof, I only want to do a small section like that. And this is where the rinse bucket comes in handy. Especially imagine you just drove the car in the rain in Florida. Not only you got bugs all over it, but then you got sand and dirt all over the thing. And that's the disadvantage to a white car, which I love white cars. It doesn't give you quite the payoff. Normally, because we don't have a lot of beading, a lot of water just sitting. Like on my car, I would probably spend 20 minutes with the leaf blower and get everything out. Maybe 10, 15 minutes getting every little crack and crevice. Here, I'm just moving the water around. So once we get the proper sealant or wax on the paint, it just blows everything off. And so I'll just sort of run up and down it. That way I don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to show you the economical way to dry, and I'm going to show you my newest, best, most expensive way to dry. Meaning you can make the choice. So the simple way to dry, back to Adams. Like I said, Adams does a great job. Problem is these are about 25 bucks a piece, but they'll last you like the rest of your life. I mean, some of these I've had for 12 years. You take care of them, they last a long time. So this is a waffle weave microfiber. I like waffle weave. You would think you would want a big, thick, plush, heavy towel, but waffle weave just does a better job at drying. And so the inexpensive way to dry is to grab either a spray-on wax or a detail spray. So this is where I told you guys it's really important to this step is the most important part. You want some sort of lubricant between your towel and the paint.
Oh, yeah.
When drying. Correct. So I'm using a drying aid. And so if you have wax on the car, you could use usually spray on wax, and then it gives you one, a lubricant, and two, like a little extra layer of wax. If you have a sealant or something that's synthetic, like this Rain-X would be a synthetic sealant, then we'll want to use detail spray. Just because spray on wax usually wouldn't attach or wouldn't, it would just smear around, or detail spray will usually do a little better job.
Is that Adams too?
Yep. Adams, Gria, I mean detail spray is detail spray. I like Adams because the bottle matches the other ones, but it's good. You know, Adams is really, really good. This you don't want to let dry. It won't hurt the paint, it'll just leave little mark, little spots, and then you have to use it again to get it off. This is also what you could use for a clay lube. We're using a clay bar.
Instead of water?
Yeah.
Instead of water?
Yeah, you usually would want to use something that's a bit more, that has more lubricity rather than just water. Even soap and water would be better than just water with clay lube. So I'm just gonna, just spritz a little bit of this on. The more you put on, the more you got to get off. So you just want, to get some on the paint. And then I usually use 2 towels. And again, I'm not buffing it out. I'm just dragging the towel. And this is where it becomes really, really useful to have the proper stuff on the paint. With this Rain-X stuff, I'm going to have to keep wiping over and over and over again to get it dry. Where if I have really good stuff on the paint, most of the water's already gone. I put my drying aid on and I do 2 swipes and it's dry. Where here I'm going to have to do a little bit more work.
The windows I usually don't care about too much because I'm going to follow with the window cleaner afterwards, which takes another 5 minutes of your time. So this is the simple, inexpensive way to dry a car. You don't have to worry about, again, the windows as much with scratching. So I have a wet towel and a dry towel. A car like this, I'd probably use 3, maybe 4 at the most. Plus in Florida, it's so darn humid that, if we were in Michigan, we'd probably only use 2 towels. So the towel's doing all the work. I'm not applying pressure. And if you get good stuff, you don't have to get crazy about this. Some people will do this when they're drying. And then they'll do this. Again, my philosophy is if what I'm doing isn't scratching the paint, then it must be working. And so the trick was I had to do it, I had to try it my way first and see if it scratched. Luckily I know how to get scratches out.
Using ammo hydrate as a drying aid was the expensive option I was talking about. As you can't hear it here in the video because I didn't turn the mic on, but we sort of determined as a group that really this way of drying is actually more economical. You use less towels and less product. So using this to do the job seems to be actually less expensive. We also afterwards I showed them just sort of basic glass cleaning techniques, and then sort of adjourned for the afternoon. We actually spent probably an hour and a half afterwards talking about life and answering questions and talking about different products, which was really, really great. So anyway, I hope to do more of this stuff. I hope to host people over my house from all over the world if you want to come. And as always, guys, stay tuned for more crazy. What happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor.